There is an expectation on sobriety that with it automatically comes happiness. But you've noticed that that doesn't seem to be true, not for you. It seems like everyone around you is happy or sad or angry, but not you. You're just nothing. You feel nothing. Incapable of either conjuring up an emotion in yourself or stirring one in somebody else. You feel hollow, as though if somebody knocked on you, you would echo inside. You feel incomplete somehow, like a bell without a clapper. From the outside, you look normal, but you make no noise. You've started to worry that something is inherently wrong with you. Perhaps your addiction or your compulsions or your obsessions. They've changed your brain unalterably. Perhaps you feel that having given up whatever it was that you gave up, you've also gave up whatever it was that made you, you. And that feels unjust. It feels unfair. Because you did the hard work. You did everything that everybody told you to do, and yet you still can't find a way to be happy. You changed your life beyond recognition, and it is undoubtedly better by every objective measure. Yet you don't feel better. You don't feel better. You just feel like you're pretending to feel better. And perhaps that's been going on a while. And the question is no longer, will I ever feel happiness again? The question has become, will I ever feel anything ever again? You might even yearn to be angry or to be full of hatred for something, to be full of rage. Because in the absence of joy, the presence of any emotion at all, even a destructive one, would be better than this void that you feel, this absence of feeling. It's cruel, this nothingness, because in the process of trying to chase it away, you remember times in your life when you were happy, a time when you were celebrated or when you felt good without effort. You conjure up childhood memories or a time when you impressed a group of your peers by saying something unusually funny. And usually that memory would bring you some feeling of fleeting happiness, but not anymore. And these memories, they only make it worse, because what they do is they make you grieve for that time when you were happy. Now, you are far from alone in this feeling. Isolation and uniqueness, they're baked into this feeling. This feeling will make you feel alone, and it will lie to you. It makes you feel like you're the only person feeling it. And if you were to tell another soul how you were truly feeling, or rather, how you were unable to feel, it would burden them with an unsolvable problem which they could never possibly understand because they do not feel like you do. It feels like this emptiness is your burden alone to carry, your cross to bear, and only yours. And perhaps in darker moments, you might even try to convince yourself that you deserve it. But you are not alone. There are millions of us right now, all at the same time, all of us standing at that same fork in the road. And all of us are afraid to tell another person how we feel, or rather, how we cannot feel. Now, one of those forks in the road in which we're all standing is signposted with the word euphoria. And it leads back to whatever it was that you just left behind. That road, euphoria, it goes straight back to whatever it was that you quit. And you can see, looking down that road on the horizon, you see warm, familiar light. And you see the flushed cheeks of the euphoria you felt. And it feels familiar and comforting. It looks almost gravitationally inviting on the horizon, pulling you towards it. Because you know what's there. You know what's at the end of that road because you've been there for years. You've been there for so long that that place feels like home to you. As terrible as it was, it feels like home. And it's smooth and easy all the way back down. And all of us, we want to pursue that road. The road back to what we think of as home, our former addiction, former obsession, former compulsion. Because the other fork is invisible to us through a dense smog of uncertainty. We don't yet know what's down that road. This road is signposted Eudaimonia, and even that word feels alien to us. The choice between the roads euphoria and eudaimonia is an easy one, right? After so long feeling this kind of nothingness, of being a vacuum, it seems to be a natural and even obvious decision to choose euphoria, especially when the alternative is unknown to you. And you've been disappointed so far that all of your efforts in sobriety to improve your life have resulted in this emptiness, this nothingness, this feeling of being suspended in amber. Was this what I was fighting for? A state of perpetual waiting. Don't you deserve to feel something again? Isn't that supposed to be the reward for the sacrifices you've made to get here? Isn't happiness the reward for sobriety? Well, perhaps some definitions might be useful at this point. Euphoria. Euphoria is a sudden, intense, but short-lived emotional high. A spike of momentary passing joy. It's a drug hit, or an orgasm, or it's eating after hunger. It is exhilarating, but it's unstable. Eudaimonia, by contrast, is a deep, stable sense of lasting well-being, grounded in living a meaningful life aligned with your principles. That is eudaimonia. Euphoria is the relief of being elevated above your baseline and implies that your baseline is low. After all, for your high to be pleasurable, it needs to be measured against the low of your ordinary state. Think of being kept awake by a dripping tap. You can't identify the source and you can't stop it, but it is persistent. You can't ignore it. Like a metronome, it comes to set the pace of your thoughts. And every time you are about to fall asleep, you're jerked awake again until the drip becomes your baseline. Now imagine all of a sudden it stops. And after a moment of hesitation to check whether it's going to begin again, you feel a sense of happiness and you fall asleep. But that's not happiness. That's just no longer being annoyed. It is relief. The happiness ultimately comes from night after night of restful sleep. Happiness accumulates like a coral reef. One spike of coral does not make a reef, does not constitute a reef. A reef is formed by the long, slow accumulation of small contributions. That is eudaimonia. Euphoria is a momentary high. Eudaimonia is a way of living well. But it's hard. Our lives have become characterized by the pursuit of euphoric spikes of shorter and shorter duration and greater intensity. We seek out chemicals to make us feel happy. We seek out bad news to make us feel angry. We seek chaos to make us feel busy. And we seek noise to make us feel less alone. We seek out strangers to make us feel popular. And we seek objects to make us feel wealthy. And we seek wealth to make us feel successful. We seek euphoria because our greatest fear is a single moment of silence. A moment of stillness, a moment of nothingness is a horror to us today. And that's why I suggest politely that this nothingness that you're feeling is actually the most valuable gift you could possibly be given. As I personally emerge from a long period of anhedonia, I've come to understand that all those feelings that I just described, the euphoria and the rage, all of those feelings that I'd been pursuing, they're all built on sand. None of them have any substance. You've been given a reset button by this sense of emptiness. You've been given an opportunity to recognize that the attainment of happiness might mean that you need a new understanding of happiness. What you need to realize is this: the emotional darkness that you're feeling is not your enemy. It is the background radiation of a new universe, a universe that is yours to create if you will just take a moment to pause and to allow it to be silent for a moment and to hear the silence instead of trying to bury it with noisy things and overwhelming sensations. The silence is not your enemy. It is you underneath everything. And I know that's a scary thought, because when we think of silence, we think of nothingness. And when we think of nothingness, we think of death. But this darkness is not death. It is the anticipation of light. This feeling of emptiness that you're experiencing. It is potential. And in this new universe that is yours to create, it is up to you to be able to hear the darkness's desire for light. So build slowly and be aware of the temptation of the old joys. Perhaps you no longer need to pursue the things that previously made you feel euphoria. Because the old euphoria was like dynamite. It was loud, and it was sudden, and it was exciting, and it was destructive. A sudden, noisy expansion and contraction of the air, right? But your new joy, eudaimonia, it is more like the air itself. It's constantly there, as reliable as the moon. Eudaimonia is not an experience in the way that euphoria is. It is not an emotion to be felt. It is neither a peak nor a trough. It is not a thing to be held or a sensation to be felt. Eudaimonia is the space in which all of those things are allowed to exist. It is, in more poetic terms, the canvas on which you paint. And the old joys that you previously experienced, they required very old binaries to go with them. The old joy required things to be black or white, experiences to be pleasurable or to be painful, emotions to be positive or negative. It needed you to manufacture problems so that you could experience the relief of solving them. It needed the dripping tap so you could feel the relief of its stopping. Eudaimonia requires no such contrasts. It is the background. It is not something that could be measured or compared or intellectually understood. It is something that you grow into and ultimately become. You become eudaimonic, and it requires no more definition than that. But before you get there, you need to listen to your silence. Allow it to be heard, because you haven't lost your ability to feel. Now that you've left the old noise behind, you're hearing for the first time. Understand this. When you worry about why you can't feel anything anymore, and you ask yourself, why can't I just be happy? Ask yourself instead if that's because perhaps you've been operating under a misapprehension about happiness. And all this time, all these years, you've been seeking happiness in external sources or waiting to have happiness thrust upon you. Perhaps it's time you considered whether you really understand what happiness is and what it should be and what it really looks like for you. Is happiness the short, sharp exhilaration of euphoria? Or is it the state of deep, lasting well-being of eudaimonia? Because happiness should not be something airdropped into your life. It should be the background, the air in which your life can breathe. I'd like to thank my friend Giles over on the Patreon for inspiring me to do this episode today instead of doing a deeply depressing one, which I had planned. Thank you all for watching. And as always, good luck out there.